Welcome to DefineURadio After Dark Conversations, where real people have unfiltered conversations about the topics that influence the way we think, feel, and move. Each week with your host, Valencia Griffin Wallace.
Welcome to DefineURadio After Dark Conversations. I am your host, Valencia Griffin Wallace. Since it is the month of love, February, my birth month, the most perfect month of the year, we will be covering various topics to help you get your love life together in 2021. Today, we are discussing when to know it is over so you can find the love you deserve. We are joined by Queen Donna Barnes. Queen Donna, say hello to the people.
Hello, everyone.
It's crazy introducing you because you're like a regular, you know?
Yes.
But I thought this was a very interesting topic because a lot of people are in relationships they don't want to be in, or they don't know how to exit, or any of that I've never had an issue with, but we'll talk about that later. So, how do you know when a relationship is over?
For me, I believe that you know when a relationship is over when you're not worried if you hear from that person or not throughout the day. You could care less what time that person comes home. I think you have this vibe and you feel this vibe and you just know that it's just not there anymore. Like you're able to feel it. You know, you might ignore it, but you're definitely able to feel it. You're able to feel like the disconnect. We're not connecting. We're not vibing. We're having all these arguments all the time. We just can't seem to get along. It's just not working anymore.
Like, I don't care if you live or die.
Yeah.
Or
And
maybe
definitely if I'm not taking a bullet for you.
It's to me, like, everything you said is like 100% true, because I know I've been in relationships that I knew was over. Like, I was done. Like you said, I didn't care if I heard from the person, would roll my eyes when the phone would ring type situation. Like, I was just done. But that is harder exiting a relationship if y'all live together.
It is. It is. It is, but the truth, the disconnect will still be there. It'll still be there. My last relationship, me and the guy lived together, and maybe 2 weeks before we broke up, the disconnect started to be there. I could tell that he was distancing himself. He was being very forgetful. Like he would never lose his debit card, and he lost his debit card. So just paying attention to those little cues, I was able to tell the disconnect was there. Now, did I want him to leave? No, I wanted to ignore the disconnect, because I enjoyed the relationship. But the truth be told, the disconnect was still there.
So, and I've heard this said, like, when a woman's done, she's done. But with that being said, like, do you think women tend to show more like I'm done and exit, or do you think men show it more?
My opinion, I think men show it more because even if a woman sometimes know that they're done, they'll still try to find a way to make it work. So I think more men, when they're done, because a man, they just going, they're going to up and leave, or they're going to cheat, or they're going to do what they do. For a woman, we're going to probably, if we're cheating, we're going to be a little more secretive and things like that. But we'll still just stay there and have our cake on the side too.
That's a whole other show. Because that age old, I don't know if it's age old, but it's a discussion about who cheat more, men or women. And I say women do. Women cheat more. It's just women don't get caught, not like
Right.
men. So that would be, we're gonna have to get some men on that topic. But I think men would agree that women cheat more. So that's interesting. So you kind of hit on working things out. Like why should you try to work things out? Or, should you just exit?
I think it depends on how far gone the relationship is, because sometimes there's no point of no return. Like, some things can be worked out, but some things cannot be worked out. So, for instance, if you're in a relationship and your significant other is constantly cheating on you, how much more are you going to be willing to stay? There some people are going to say, through thick and thin, and we took these vows. But in the Bible, it also say too, that's one of the ways we could get that divorce if someone commits adultery. So I think it depends. Now, if we cheat one time and I forgive you, we're going to counseling, we're making it work. That's a different story. It can work, but we have to look at what is worth salvaging. Is it worth us having to be on guard or extra cautious because we've been hurt by this person before? If we choose to stay in a relationship because someone has hurt us, are we going to fully forgive that person? Are we going to really let our guard down again? So all those factors definitely depend, and definitely we have to keep social media out of the relationship and some of our friends, because they don't have the best, advice for us. At the end of the day, it's all about what you and that person want to do. So if you and that person want to make it work and y'all going to be fully committed into making it work, then it may be able to work. But if one person is still straddling the fence, and then you on this side and you're for sure, it's not going to work, because that person still don't know for sure that they want to be with you.
I look at this, and I know, we're going to talk about this in a other conversation that y'all have to stay tuned.
Yes.
But with my ex, and I think maybe because that's partially how I'm built up, to where either, like, I'm never straddling the fence, right? There's either I'm connected or I'm not. So whenever something happens that person, that I lose that connection, it's just, okay, I'm about to go. I'm bouncing. And I have no interest of working things out, not like wholly, not like, you know what I'm saying? Like, with my ex, I knew it was over. Like, I knew I was done. Because I gave, different chances for different things. And that was more of an emotional side. Like, treat me this kind of way versus that kind of way. And I'm going to give you so many chances to do what I'm telling you I need. And then I'm done. There was and it was funny because when I was like done, and I did give a warning, right? Like, real talk, I gave like a whole 2 years. So I said, like, look, this is the issues I'm having, and you have until this date to fix it, or this date I'm leaving. And I understand most people don't do that. But I was trying to be nice because I have been with this person a long time. They thought I was playing, and I said, okay, exactly this day or this month of this year, I'm leaving. And that person thought I was playing until I had a couple of months before that started, packing stuff, everything else. And then at that point, when it was like, damn, she really leaving. Okay, well, can we go to counseling? Can we figure this out? And by that time, I was like so far done. And I'm like, I told you this 2 years ago. Like, you thought I was playing? Like, that's not my personality.
Right.
And I did my part. I told you what issues I was having. You were making me depressed. You were, I felt like, certain things was going on in the relationship that I didn't like. So fix it. Let's go to counseling. And he didn't want to. So, okay. Now I start playing in my exit strategy. However, we did not have kids together. So, do you think that if you have kids with the person that you know the relationship is done, do you think you should stay?
Mm, that's a hard one. And let me tell you why. In a sense, I say yes, but in a sense, I say no. And I say yes if you really think that it's going to work, that we're not going to cause harm to our kids by staying together, then I will say yes. Let's stay and try to make it work. But if we're going to continue to bicker, if we're going to continue to argue, if nothing is going to change, then we need to leave, because this is what our kids is seeing. And if our kids are seeing these things, they're going to get to the point to where they think it's okay when they grow up, and it's not okay. So it's not okay when you do it. It's not okay for your child to have to go through it too. So I definitely think that we have to look at all the factors to consider if it's staying or not. Even like when we're in marriages, and some people, I hear a lot of people say that they stay together for their kids. But then when you talk to some of their kids, some of the kids wish that their parents would have broken up because of the
Mm.
damage, the trauma, the toxic that they saw growing up. So we have to really look at, is it best for our kids, or is it best that we're separate? When me and my son father separated, we were better separated. To be honest, we got better when he went to jail, because
Mm.
before we couldn't be friends. So again, seeing and knowing what's going to be better for you, that person, in your whole situation, and your children. If it's really not going to work and you have it made up in your mind that it's not going to work, it's best to just leave it alone. If you just stand for finances, you can make your own money. So we really just have to definitely see if it's really worth it, because it's going to cause, sometimes it could cause more harm than help in the situation.
I know, as a child of divorce, my parents got divorced. I don't know, maybe I was like 5, 6, 7. I don't exactly remember the age, but I remember the cheating because I was a grown kid. So I was very observant with what was going on. So I didn't, I, you know, I don't remember what their relationship was like because my dad was in the Navy, so he was gone a lot. So I don't remember, any like arguments or fighting or anything of that. So, like, from a child's eyes looking at it, when they got divorced and then started involving other people, because both of them remarried, from a child, I wish they would have stayed together. But like I said, I was too young. I don't know if they ever argued or, had what else was going on besides the cheating,
Hmm.
um, to say, because I know, whereas, my dad married a lady that gave me two brothers, she was all right. Hey, Paulette, if you're listening. Even though they're not married anymore, but I mean, she was cool. I was hell as a kid, but whatever. The man my mom married, if I looked at that, I was always like, I wish my parents would have been together.
Hmm.
Um, because he was very toxic. But that's a discussion for a whole other day. Like, even hearing that man's name to this day make my skin crawl.
Mm.
Um, So from a kid's point of view, I wish my parents would have stayed together only because I didn't see the problems they had besides cheating. And I know that sounds crazy cuz cheating is enough,
Hmm.
but um that's how I look at it. Now, as a parent with the child, I'm very much like, uh-uh. With me and my son's dad, we weren't really in a quote unquote relationship. We were in a situationship. Even though it wasn't called that back in the 90s, that's what it was. Um, I just, we weren't serious enough to think about it, but even trying to once I got pregnant, there was like no discussion. I looked at it like, look, just because I'm pregnant and having a kid don't mean we need to all of a sudden be in a relationship, because you're not even the type of person I'd be in a relationship with. You know, I
Mhm.
was 19. It made sense at the time, and it was a better move, I think. Now, my son may feel a different way. That's a whole other discussion, but it just didn't make sense. Your daddy was a hoe, you know? So that's all I gotta say. An old one at that.
Listen.
Because I've discussed this on the show. Like, after I got pregnant, I found out he was like 33 and I was 19. And I'm like, that's gross. He looked young and he
Mhm.
said he was 26. That's all I'm going to
Mm-mm.
say.
Mm-mm.
But I'm not bashing him because one thing I can say, he did pay his child support faithfully. Anyway, to the next topic. So
Yes.
when a relationship is like done, y'all tried to work it out, it ain't gonna work, whatever, you're gonna leave. Is it best to like make a quick exit? Like, I'm done, pack your stuff, you leave the next day, later that day or whatever, or a slow exit, like I did with my ex, and I did a 2-year exit, I guess.
Hmm. I think it goes back to like depending on the situation. So like when me and my ex, when we separated, when we noticed the disconnect, we decided to separate because he was in my life for 2 years. So we talked to my son about it together, and he told me my apartment is going to be ready at such and such time. And when his apartment was ready, he moved out. So I think it's best to have a conversation before we leave, before we exit that relationship, so it doesn't have to be but bad blood. Sometimes relationships just don't work out. So let's talk about it so we be able to exit the right way. Because we don't want to exit in a more chaotic way than what the relationship was already in, because that's just going to leave bad blood. So exit in a way that won't leave bad blood.
Were you already a therapist at this time?
I was, but
Okay.
yeah. Oh, I was a therapist at the time, but not as good as I am now. I'll say that
Right,
I was
but
just starting out.
you had already, because like you saying that and everything you just said makes sense, because even though you were just starting out, your mind was already maturing or matured in that way.
Hmm.
And I think that, so you like thought about all of it and handled things in a very mature way. I don't know that that's true for the average person. Like, think about people or may have counseled.
Hmm.
And I'm pretty sure you do probably tell them, okay, well, have a conversation. Like, I think if I was your patient, you probably would have told me don't come back. So
And I think for
that
me too. Oh, go ahead.
no,
I think for me too. I I think I just had enough. I think I got to the point to where I had enough of trying to beg or convince someone to stay with me. If they wanted to leave, I was okay with it.
now, have you been the quote unquote leaver?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So did you make your exit quick or slow? Did you try to make
Now,
the person
honestly, with that one, I left when they was at work.
see? Okay, so let's talk about that one. Why you ain't try to work it out?
Because that was the baby daddy. So when you know the person that you're dealing with, and
Yeah.
you know how they are, you know their moves, you know what's going to set them off. Mm-mm. I left when he was at work. I knew better.
Mm. I know with a relationship that I don't count except for the lessons I got from it when I was in my early 20s, and with a very physically abusive man.
Hmm.
And that's a definitely another discussion we'll have closer to October, give or take. But just that going back and forth, and it wasn't like I knew the relationship was over from the first time, that he slapped me and I tried to pull his braids out. I'm not advocating violence or anything of that nature. However, how I'm built, you hit me, I'm going to hit you back.
Right.
And so that should have been like, I knew the relationship wasn't going to work, but I don't know if I was trying to make it work or I don't know. It's a different mindset you have at 21, 22, 23 versus in your 40s. So with that, it was more of a me exiting safely. And I think we might have talked about it before last year, like, leaving like a abusive relationship or those things. So like I knew with that I had to be a little manipulative, because I honestly knew then, and I know it's different with a quote unquote regular relationship versus an abusive relationship, because your exits, like, how it's best to handle it. But because of his personality, I had to make it like, look, we can't afford to be together. I'm gonna go, like, I can't remember because it was so long ago, but it was more of, I made it seem like the situation, not like it was him or me or the violence. I tried to put it like a financial move. Now, what happened after that, different story. But I think it just, like you said, you got to know the person you're leaving and who you're dealing with to know the best way for you to leave. That's my 5 cents on that.
Listen, you do. You definitely have to know.
So think of, I'm thinking about like this whole term people use now, co-parenting. So, okay. So what exactly is co-parenting?
I believe co-parenting is just like what it says. We're co-parenting. So we're both participating in raising the child that we both created. So to me, that's what co-parenting is. Co-parenting is, okay, I'm not going to talk about your mama bad behind behind her back or in front of my child, and vice versa. I'm not going to talk about the daddy bad in front of my child. We're co-parenting. Guess what? If my child comes to me and say, well, my daddy said I can have this, mama needs to get on the phone and call daddy. Hey, such and such said you said he could have this. Is this true? We need to be on the same page. That's what co-parenting is. Because guess what? If that child knows that they could play one parent against the other, that's what their child is going to do, and it's going to raise conflict. So co-parenting is definitely working together to raise your child the best way that y'all can in different households.
I think my parents attempted to co-parent from different states. I don't know. Like, I remember they had an agreement that unless me and my sister wanted to be, like, they would never split me and my sister up. So if we wanted to go live with my dad, both of us would have to agree and want to go, which put undue pressure on us as kids, However, I was that kid. Okay. I apologize for nothing I did as a child. Let me just state that. But it was when we was with my dad, and I didn't care for my stepmom because at the end of the day, she wasn't my mama, and she was from Washington, and they don't season their food. I just remember that part as a kid. Okay. And I remember I would call my mom and lie on my stepmom. I was that kid. Okay. I will say that. I will fully admit that. So I think I probably got in the way of co-parenting. So with that being said, because like I said, there was cheating that ended my parents' marriage. How do you co-parent? Let's take the child being messy out the equation. How do you co-parent when the relationship ends badly? Y'all can't stand each other to talk. Like, do you co-parent by notes, text? Because I've seen it go wrong lead to arguments, fights, all other kind of stuff when the relationships end badly. Not in my own life, but people I know.
Mm-hmm. This is how I look at it, because some of our African American men be quick to say, we don't want those people, the folks like the judges and stuff in our business, especially like when it comes to the child support. I like to think
Yeah.
of it the same way. So we need to try to find some type of way to where we could communicate regarding our children, to where we ain't got to get nobody else involved. We shouldn't have to have a third party getting involved just so we could communicate. We was communicating well when we slept to have this child. So let's try to communicate well now so we could raise the child. Because again, it goes back to, we don't want our child to become toxic based on the things that our child see us doing. So if it's through a text message, let's communicate through a text message. But I think it's going to be best to communicate through the phone. We need to talk on the phone because text message don't have a tone. So that could send things more left than what things already are. So being the bigger parent, being the bigger persons, because we're grown adults, we need to talk about it. We need to communicate over the phone. I don't have to see you. I don't have to like you. I'm going to respect what you say. You're going to respect what I say. We're going to have boundaries in place when it comes to our kids. Other than that, we have nothing to talk about.
Yeah, I hear that. That's all I could say. But me and my son's dad didn't have issues with quote unquote co-parenting. Number one, I was here in Louisiana. He was in Georgia. I laid my foot down. My child is not leaving me because I don't know your lifestyle. Mind you, I was young, in the way that I see things now versus then is a little different, but not so much. The only time we really had issues or had an issue was when he got involved with somebody else. And it wasn't coming from me. It was the person he was involved with had the nerve to get on the phone. Like I wasn't young and crazy. And that ruined our communication. It was like a done deal. Because, I think I could see it from different points of views, that situation. But it's not, I'm not gonna, if you have a baby with somebody, you have no business arguing with somebody they dating. You know what I'm saying? Like if y'all just dating, like we should have no communication. Y'all dating and I'm in a whole other state.
Right.
So I don't, like, who are you? Which was my feelings at the time. So that was that, but that ended like any communication that we would have when things had been going fine for years. So I'm gonna just throw that out there and leave that alone. Go ahead, baby.
And I think too, as parents, like we have to think about our kids. So before we, if we separate from the parent and we go move on, to someone else, don't put that next person before your child. Your child was there first. Your child should always come first, and no, he or she can have a say so, but you're going to have to really consider what you're going to take into consideration that somebody else said that's not the parent, because that could affect your relationship with your child.
And again, dating versus somebody you're engaged to or married to.
Right.
And what I think a lot of mistakes, I know this conversation going a different way, but it is what it is. I think a lot of times, because I've been on both ends of that situation, right? So I look at it like, if this is just somebody you are number one, we don't need to talk. We don't, and that's how I looked at it from that point of view, being the quote unquote baby mama. I don't need, why is this girl on the phone? I'm not calling you because I want you, because honestly, if I knew you were that much older than me, I wouldn't have fooled with you anyway. Just being honest. Um, so the girl on the phone, and it was the things that she said, like literally, I was ready to get in my car and drive them 8 hours to Georgia. Because like you don't know me, you just run out the side of your mouth. So that is not the way that you approach the situation, dealing with the quote unquote baby mama. Now, from the other side of that, because when me and my husband started dating, he had kids, right? And I took this approach that, we were dating, we were seeing each other. I think a year later we met his kids, and I told him I met his kids, and I was honest. If I don't like your kids, or if they're bad, or if it's some baby mama drama, we will not have a relationship. And I was honest, because people want to be like, oh, kids this and kids so sweet. No, they have some bad kids out there that you don't want to be the step parent of.
Right.
So I was honest. I said, look, if I meet your kids and I don't like them, we just gonna be a situationship, basically. But I'm married, so y'all fill in the blanks on that. However, dealing with the baby mamas, I did have to put my foot down, only because how they came at me, and that'll be a discussion. That'll definitely have to be a conversation. It's like being the baby mama versus being the new wife, But I'll say either way, when you're dealing with but I only can speak for Valencia as a person, regardless of what role you are in my life, don't come off hollering at me, because it ain't gonna never, like, forgiveness is not a thing for me. I'm always keep that same energy.
All right.
Go ahead and let the therapist part kick in.
No, because in this day and time,
I told
we
you
do
you
have
would
to
kick
do
me
that.
out your office.
I just
Okay.
reread you the same rights, But it's true though. We have to get to that point to where we do, be able to kick out the same energy, because sometimes that could get overwhelming. Sometimes it could really get overwhelming, and that could really get stressful. And that goes back to like us having to know, like, when it's time to exit, whether a friendship, relationship, situationship, when it's taking your peace, when you could see yourself, when you could see yourself in orange, it's a problem.
Or them referee stripes.
Yes.
Okay, so do you think, now I say no with this, but I know a lot of people that are still friends with their ex. So let's say there's no kids involved. And y'all relationship didn't necessarily end badly. Y'all just parted ways, whatever. Do you think you should remain friends with an ex?
No. And I'm gonna say no.
That's so clear.
Yeah, because I wanted to. I did that before. Like, I tried to remain friends with my last boyfriend, but I did that because I wanted to get him back. I was like, well, maybe if we be friends, maybe he'll go back to realizing what he missed. Maybe we could get back together. So mine was for something completely different. But it's hard to remain friends with somebody that you loved. Like, how are you going to move forward by continuing to hold on to that? And then you have to think about that significant other when you do get in a relationship. So no, I don't play that friends with my ex stuff, because just as y'all still friends, you could go back and creep in, and vice versa.
I agree. Now, this is not something that was on our conversation list, but it's something that me and Shannon and Lavon discussed. Do you think, and so I want to take this opportunity to ask you this question. Do you think that men and women could be friends? Like, if you had, let's say you in a relationship, do you have a problem with your husband, boyfriend, whatever, having a female friend and y'all not friends?
Yeah, like if this ain't your childhood friend from first grade, if y'all just met in college, and I'm meeting you in college too. We got issues. Nah, unless I'm gonna have to meet her. But then I think that goes back to being in tune with your partner, because guess what? If you're in tune with your partner, you're going to be able to tell when the disconnects start to form, or you'll be able to tell when their mannerisms change, when their behavior change, the way they talk change. So I can't do that friend thing unless she must be a childhood friend and I must have met her. She come over when I'm over, and that's it.
Okay, so now do you have male friends?
When I'm in a relationship,
Like currently, yeah.
well, I'm currently single, but I have like guy friends that might like me, so we conversate. But if I'm in a relationship, no, I don't believe in having a male friend.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting. Cause and the reason why I say that is because like in this quote unquote industry, where you're speaking, writing, doing different things, you're gonna meet a lot of different people. Some of them may be men.
Hmm.
So if the person that you get with have an issue with you being friendly with people that's in the industry, like how would you handle that? You know what I'm saying?
Well, I guess it's the difference between a friend and a colleague.
Mm,
So I would, I wouldn't have that friend. I wouldn't classify a colleague as a friend. Like, we only talk when it has something to do with work. I'm referring somebody to him, and he's doing the same, vice versa. But we ain't going to have no conversations outside of work anyway. But if something was to happen, and he calls my phone at a certain time or anything, like, you could be right there. I'll put it on speakerphone, and you'll see that it's very, business wise, but that's all that it will ever be. So being able to separate that friend from the colleague.
mm, like that. I say this, and this is something I always said. If you're in a relationship, just don't do anything that you would not do in front of that person.
Mm-hmm.
So that includes conversations, that includes whatever. Uh like if I wouldn't do it in front of my husband, that's a key indicator that I probably shouldn't be doing it.
Right.
At least that's how I make it simple. So because I know, especially with the podcast and having different people on different relationships traveling, like if the conversation is one way and I feel like this is not a conversation I would have in front of my husband, because I've had to block people. Like, I'm not even gonna lie, I've had to block people from calling my phone and text messaging me because they took it like it'll be about this, and then it'll be that little inappropriate text, like so
Mm-hmm.
that's my 5 cents on that. um Now, before somebody moves into a relationship, let's say they know it's over, they're not going to work it out, they exited the relationship. How do you know if you need to like heal and take some deep reflection and all of that stuff before you move on to the next?
I think before any relationship, anyway, we need to heal, because we don't need to go into the next relationship with the same, with the baggage from the past relationship. So I definitely think that whether we feel we need healing or not, we need it, because we need to go into the next relationship a different person. So we need to be able to see what went wrong in the last relationship. We need to remove blame, because sometimes we could blame ourselves for, oh, if I would have done this, or maybe if I would have done that. Sometimes it's not even us. So sometimes it could definitely be the other person. So I think we need to look at the ins and the odds of the relationship, why the relationship failed, what we could do different in the next relationship if we choose to get in the next relationship. But definitely take time to be with self, so we can get to that place of healing and refine ourselves, because that's going to be definitely important. Sometimes we lose our identities in our relationships.
What if you meet somebody in the process of your healing? Do you then put love off and say, okay, look, check back with me in about a month or two? You know what I'm saying? Like, Because to me, healing, and you the therapist, so like to me, I think healing is like a lifelong thing from whatever you need healing from.
It is.
And because I look at like, it's been 26, 27 years, give or take, since my mom died, right?
Mm-hmm.
So not turning the conversation that way, but just in the mindset of healing. So this is something like I'll never close a chapter and say I'm healed from this. It's a lifelong process.
Mm-hmm.
So with love, especially, I look at the abusive relationship I had. I still, in all these, you're talking about 20 years later, I feel like sometimes I feel like I'm still healing from that, because I'll see something and I'll get triggered. And honestly, I don't know if at this point in time in my life, if I ran across him, that I wouldn't throw something at him at least, just for wasting time in my young adult life. I don't know that, but I'm healed. I look at it like I'm healed from it, but maybe I'm still healing.
I think, like you said, we'll always be healing. And just because we heal from a certain thing don't mean it's not going to come back up. We're just going to have to put it back in its place when it do come back up. That's the part of being healed. So when we're healed, it's not going to bother us to the effect that it did before when we wasn't healed from it. So you'll be able to tell the difference. But if you find someone who's interested in you while you're on your healing journey, it's not to say you can't talk to them. You can talk to them. You could conversate with them. But if you see that in a week or two and you just all bubbly and feeling in love, then we still got some more healing to do.
With that being said, y'all make sure y'all catch it's almost like a part 2 of this discussion. We're going to talk a little bit about rebounding. But if you just listen to this episode, Queen Donna, how can the audience follow you?
They can follow me on Instagram at Gracefully Purpose Counseling. That's my business page. And I also have Instagram at higher_above_average 2015. I'm also on Facebook at Donna Barnes. And my website is www.gracefullypurposecounseling.com.
Yay. So with that being said, I want you guys to think about this. Is your relationship in a coma, or is it in the grave? Do you know that it's over? Does your partner know it's over and you just don't know? Is it time? Are you going to resuscitate it, or are you going to exit? That's my questions for you guys. With that being said, let us know at the Define You on Instagram and Facebook. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, have conversations that mean something, especially with the one you like or love.
You have been listening to DefineURadio After Dark Conversations. If you learned something, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with your friends, family, and foes. Make sure you go over to DefineURadio.com and subscribe for monthly giveaways and more.